Martin Luther King pursued his quest for racial equality, the music began to reflect the call for black pride and empowerment. And at the Stax studio in Memphis, Isaac Hayes and David Porter came up with a defiant anthem for Sam and Dave.
It was a time that there was bigotry, hatred of black folk, all kinds of things going on. And from a creative standpoint, we wanted to write music that was uplifting, feel good, dancing, motivating, and every song. And I think the song that sums it up more than any other song was Soul Man. Black folk at that time, we didn't have very much. So you wanted the message of the song to bring that to you. Even though I don't have very much, I'm a soul man, and I'm strong, and eventually I'll get to where I need to be.
By 1967, soul was a common term within African American music and referred to behavior, attitude, lifestyle, food, music, everything was soul. It just became a soul movement.
I got what I got the hard way. I'll make it better, but I'll make it better each and every day. You ain't seen nothing yet. I'm a soul man. Because it does make people come together, however you feel.
At the height of the summer of '67, the greatest soul man of them all was about to perform the biggest concert of his life. Alongside a who's who of '60s rock and pop giants, Otis Redding appeared before a crowd of 200,000 at the Monterey Pop Festival in California.
His performance at the Monterey Pop Festival was his first major appearance before a white audience.
This is the love crowd, right? We all love each other, don't we? Am I right? Let me hear you say yeah then. All right, song goes something like this. My favorite.
Throughout his career, Otis had struggled to reach the wider mainstream white audience. But all that would change after Monterey.
Now dig. Oh, she may be weary. Them young girls, they do get wearied wearing that same old miniskirt dress. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, that festival had been going on for a few days, and with the love crowd and all that, it already had its uniqueness and its feel about it. And when we showed up with Otis Redding, I guess it was just, they were just primed for it because it was overwhelming.
California was like another planet, but we conquered him that day. He was spectacular. He always was. And those people just didn't know what hit him. We ran over him like a Mack truck.
The counterculture group could connect with Otis Redding because he was free. He was uninhibited in his performance. The way he approached his music was not acceptable within the mainstream, of the standards of that time, but he became acceptable within his group because they were looking for something that was different.
Monterey opened Otis's eyes. Boundaries between blacks and whites were being broken down in the charts and on the streets. And as his audience grew, Otis began to draw on broader musical influences. As the year drew to a close, he unveiled a song that displayed a total change of direction.
He called to see if I was at the studio. And the reason, he said, I've got to play you this song. He said, man, you're going to love this song. I think I've got it. He said, this is the song. And he said, I just want to make sure you're there. I'm coming straight over.
Sitting at the dock of the bay, take one.
And he's clowning around, you know, making, going, ga, 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 you know, sound like crows in the woods, and he's trying to imitate these seagulls and stuff.
Okay. He's not gonna make it as a whistler.
Hey, man.
Hold it. Take two. Stay in on the mic now, Steve.
And he plays me Dock of the Bay, and it was shocking to me. I mean, I was shocked. Whistling at the end of this song. Wait a minute, Otis Redding, you're known for all these fantastic ad-libs, you know? Well, you know, why are you singing this song like this? And he said, Red, this is gonna be my first million seller, you know? And this is gonna be my first #1.
When we cut it, we listened to it back. He and I looked at each other and said, we got it. We finally got the one that we've been looking for.
On the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia and I headed for the Frisco Bay.
A few weeks after recording Dock of the Bay, Otis and his live band were back on tour, flying to a gig in Madison, Wisconsin. They would never get there.
I was watching a football game, it was snowing, and it came across the screen that Otis' plane had went down.
When Otis Redding's plane crashed into the icy waters of Lake Monona on the outskirts of Madison, Otis and all but one on board were killed. At his funeral in Macon, Georgia, thousands came to mourn Southern Soul's greatest star.
Otis Redding was my idol. He was such a big idea to all the soul singers coming up. He was just a solid piece of gold towards soul music.
And at Stax, the loss was also deeply felt.
Otis's death all but sucked the life out of Stax.
It devastated everybody. Lose your best friend. Tough.
He was the heart and soul of that operation. It was never the same after that.
Sitting here resting my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone.
Stax feared they might never recover from Otis's untimely death. It fell to a numbed Steve Cropper to complete Dock of the Bay and add one final chapter to the Otis story.
I got a phone call, emergency phone call early Monday saying, we've got to get a record out. We've got to get the next record out. I'm like, what, you know? This was unbelievable that we get that kind of request. And I went, I don't know if I can do this. And they said, you got to do it. We got to get this out.
Sitting on the Dock of the Bay became Otis Redding's first #1 record. At last, Otis had his million seller. The Stax family had managed to rally themselves to pay a fitting tribute to their brightest star when they received another blow, one that would shake America to its core. On the 4th of April 1968, white assassin James Earl Ray shot Dr. Martin Luther King in Memphis. The civil rights leader was murdered at the Lorraine Motel, where 3 years earlier, Wilson Pickett and Steve Cropper had written In the Midnight Hour. The racial integration that had created Southern soul now buckled under the pressure of politics.
It made us more conscious of the fact that we were black and white.
This fraternalism between black musicians and white musicians seemed to suffer. After Martin Luther King, everything had changed.
The dream of integration was over. A new radical force in soul music was about to emerge. But for 5 short years, the Southern experience had found its voice through Otis Redding and his contemporaries. Their music reflected an all too brief era of hope and promise, an era captured for one last moment the night before Otis's death.
Your little tenderness, yeah, yeah, yeah. Now I know she's waiting, just anticipating.